Hello everyone and welcome back for what is going to be the last episode of this playthrough. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you didn't watch it, this is gonna be a recap of everything that happened in this campaign, a few feedback, what is my meta, how our adventurers have been doing so far, and yeah, an analysis overall of that campaign. There are a lot of things to say, but I will try to make it quick and as concise as possible. First thing first, this campaign was played with the following difficulty settings, everything being maxed out from day one. I was 99.9% sure that would not be possible to complete due to the Doomclock difficulty modifier. I started at 15 and 15 for the Doomclock, like this, 15 and 15, meaning that by the end game enemies had +6 level, which was already quite hard. We did the Village in Need story quest by day 29, just before the enemies started to get some extra levels, and then we more or less tried to do one more story quest of each rank every 15 days or so. And we just killed the Emperor on day 112. But just before that, and Voratax's fight as well on day 111, I decided to modify the Doomclocks just to see how things would have ended if I chose to set the Doomclock at +1 level every 5 days, starting from day 0, which led to the final fights being with enemies having +22 levels, which was completely crazy. Bosses had between ×3 and ×5 their normal HP, same thing for their damage and so forth, and normal enemies were also completely crazy in terms of attributes and overall statistics. But still we made it. In addition to them having crazy health, crazy damage, they had incredibly high accuracies. They would never miss. They would still miss 5% of the time, but they would otherwise never miss. My adventurers were basically stormtroopers in terms of accuracy. We had -50% for the whole campaign in terms of rewards, either XP or items or money in general. Every fight was done with twice as many enemies, except for the scripted fights. We had a penalty of -90 heal potency, which was at the beginning of the campaign also applied to healing potions, which was a bug. So for the first about 40 days, I believe, I couldn't heal with potion either, which was completely crazy. Enemies, on the other hand, would double their regen, plus the fact that their regen is usually based on their base HP. Their regen was quadruple. Attribute skill checks were crazy hard to pass, although by the end game they were far easier than in the early game. And yeah, adventurers would go on the bench as soon as they'd get 1 HP of damage, which is a normal way to play. I would love to play this with 10 or 20% value on this slider, but I play with 0%, just like any normal difficulty actually. So we played with Permadeath, Ironman, and we scouted a few adventurers because with the Doomclock I didn't want to rely on pure tavern RNG in terms of adventurers. But we turned out to get better adventurer with better traits later in the game. I kept playing with the scouted ones, but the ones we got afterwards were actually better. But we sticked with the previous adventurers. And we ultimately made it to the end of the campaign. I was pretty sure I wouldn't make it past the Bandit King, but we did. We did the Bandit King around day 60, I believe, or something close to it, so about halfway through the campaign. So there were a lot of things happening in that campaign. First thing first, no death, and that is completely unexpected. I really thought I wouldn't end this campaign and that I would have a squad wipe like halfway through the campaign. No one died. No one suffered any death resist roll, apart from Endos, who had 5, I think. Let me check. Is he a punching bag? Where is it? Yeah, Survivor. Survived 5 deadly hits. Endos survived 5 deadly hits. But all of his death rolls were guaranteed to succeed. For the record, the formula for the odds of surviving is defined by bravery plus 50 plus various modifiers minus 20 for every previous death roll in each fight. So Endor's being at 72 bravery by the end game, he has Guardian Door. He may have a few other modifiers due to his equipment from time to time. All his death resists were at 100 or more %. So this being said, that's still too much. 5 death roll over the course of a campaign, but still I'm very glad I only got 5, and I got them only on my lowest HP adventurer. Probably that the AI is keen on targeting him. He was the most targeted character of the campaign, definitely. We will see that in a... So he suffered at least 500 points of damage, but what about the others? Elan, who was our first and only melee adventurers, also took 500 points of damage, but that's normal. He can sustain that easily. Okay, Raymond took 500 points as well. Okay, Alyssa did not. Alyssa only took 284 HP of damage. And his best only 370. So that's pointing the fact that most of my characters were not even targeted. They were killing enemies before they could even take a swing for most of the campaign. And actually I'm considering the fact that most of my adventurers took damage from traps, actually, because I failed a lot of skill checks about traps that are based on wisdom to reveal them and dexterity to deactivate them, and I failed a lot of them, so the wisdom ones. So I believe that most of this damage were the result of traps. This being said, no one died. 5 death resist only. One character almost died, and it was Roth, our bard, who... Let's say, how much damage did you take? You're not a punching bag, and so... Yeah, 300. You were left with 1 HP against 4 attacks, and you were shaken at that time. So the death resist formula that I gave you would only work when people are not suffering the shaken status, which was your case at that time. So you were very lucky to survive, but I still had the resurrection potion available should I need to resurrect someone, so everything went perfectly well. What else to say? I will go for every building first. Temple, I almost never healed my adventurers, although from time to time I was forced to because I only played with 1 A team. I couldn't afford to train a B team. This B team doesn't have level 1 because I sent them into various assignments. and Misasa and Daryl came into the A team from time to time to replace someone who was doing something else. So only the A team was playing, and I sent them into the temple as soon as we started to really do some fights, which started by day 40 or 50, I believe. Before that, we were mostly exploring maps and gathering whatever we could while avoiding any fight and fleeing whenever possible. We fled a lot. We really fled a lot. We sometimes failed to flee for almost 2 full rounds, which was quite dangerous because we could have been one-shotted early in the campaign, but still we made it safely to the end game without losing anyone in the early game or in the second half of the campaign for that matters. Regarding crafting equipment, I did not craft anything standard. I only crafted kind of unique or almost unique equipment, and I only crafted the ones that I needed for my A team. If you look at my inventory, this is it. Let's go through it quickly. I purchased a lot of legendary chess keys, but I never had to use them. I could have used one once, but that didn't work. I hadn't have this key when I needed it, unfortunately. I had 3 books, adventurer manuals, that I collected along the way. I made a fast analysis of my inventory, and I came to the conclusion that I already almost have between 400 and 500,000 worth of assets in selling price. I mean, not in value price, which would be twice as high. But if I sold everything I had, apart from what I have already equipped, that would net me between 400 and 500 gold, in addition to the 260 gold that I have. So I did not purchase anything apart from a few gems or very specific items that I wanted for my meta, plus a few legendary chess keys. But yeah, I was pretty greedy in terms of not spending money in that playthrough, because I thought that would be much harder in terms of cash flow, but it turned out to be quite easy in the end. Tavern, we only gave 6 titles, and we hired a few adventurers that we will see afterwards. My A team is, I believe, fully scouted, apart from Ilan and Alisa, obviously. But the rest... I also hired a few scouted adventurers for the B team. I was getting ready for any replacement should someone die along the way. So I still wanted to have few decent adventurers, just in case something bad would happen, just to be ready, but that did not happen. So these guys cost me a bit of money, but that was a worthy insurance should things go south. Same applies for potions. I didn't use any potion apart from a few potions for Voratax and the Emperor fights, which were played with plus 22 levels. For the rest of the game, I might have used 1 antidote, 1 healing potion at some point, just to prevent someone from dying. Well, less than 5 potions, I would say, overall over the campaign. So I'm still left with a lot of potions in the bank by the end game, but that was my playstyle. I wanted to save everything I could, just in case things would go south, but that did not happen much. Yep, alright. Adventurers and parties. This, I want to spend a little bit of time on that one, to see who were my adventurers and how they performed during this campaign. So first thing first, let's see the statistics and the traits of everyone. So Rolf was a very good bard with the following traits. He ended with 60 willpower, which was insane. Here are his skills. And the main idea I had with him was to equip him with those items to grant him extra mobility with the scout armor and the winged boots, as well as very high initiative so that he could play first almost every round. And by applying this teamwork training, move together, that would increase everyone's mobility to 6. His mobility was to 7, so this teamwork skill grants the leader mobility -1 to everyone. So everyone was at mobility 6, which is absolutely awesome. And should I haste Wrath or give him anything that could increase his mobility, that would further increase everyone's mobility during a fight. So that was very tactically interesting. He also had the Bow of Nature with +6 magical attack with the gems. And yeah, the scout armor. I chose to keep that rare armor instead of a legendary one for the +1 movement it brings. Then we have Ilan, our beloved Ilan, who was a Dragon Knight with crazy high strength. All the potions went to him. Let's see Ruff once again. His statistics, if you want to see them. His rest distances, empowerment, penetration, and attribute growth. Now Ilan with crazy high attribute growth. Nice attributes, nice stats, nice resistances, obviously, empowerments, penetration, and the following traits. So I had him getting arm wrestling by level 4, I think. I failed 3 arm wrestling events before I could apply it to anyone during this playthrough, unfortunately. Playing Ironman with the skill check modifier turned out to be quite a hassle in the beginning of the game. And I made a few mistakes as well. I did not have anyone with 10 strengths or with a strong trait, which did not allow me to compete in the very first occurrences of this event. So he got Strange Memories, he got the training by Falcon and Bai, he got the vampiric traits found in the Old Fortress, he drank the potion, and so yeah, his attributes are crazy high. He adds a plus 15% skill from the Dragon Knight skill tree. And so let's see his skills. I took obviously those personal skills ASAP by changing his class back to an archer in the beginning of the game to reallocate his first base skill point to the strength one, and then I moved toward the other skills. This being said, Raymond, the absolute MVP of this campaign, with the following traits. I picked Dubious Unbreaking instead of Mana Core. Both could have been great, but I wanted to focus on dexterity above all else due to the skill check difficulty settings, and I'm happy with it. Watching my mana has been quite a difficult task at the beginning of the game, but then it was perfectly fine, I think. So his attributes are as follows. He has the new legendary item that grants +5 dexterity, and the fact that PAB is based on dexterity, so hence is very high dexterity. I didn't show the equipment of Helen. This Clock of Bravery was only used in the last few episodes, otherwise he usually rotates this this slot. He almost always has a scoundrel mask to hide behind enemy lines once he moved forward, but other than that, his B accessory tended to move and tended to change depending on the quest we were facing. So high dexterity, very high PAB, decent penetration, very good attribute growth, and yeah, turn into a Beastmaster by the end game, and we will see in his campaign statistics that he did an absolute mass. Endorse, very close second MVP, very high intelligence, and he was doing an absolute DPS by the end game. He was doing a crazy lot of damage, very high SP bank, a lot of regenerating abilities, a full fire, pretty much fire oriented, although I chose the Silent Magus or Swift Sorcerer title for him, so he was absolutely crazy in terms of damage output. Regarding his traits, magically talented, educated, and rational for the based one, and you can see what else he got along the way. He turned out to be a witch. I did not talk about the titles. Raymond is the Shadow, Ilan is the Champion for better use of Brave Points, and also to grant some BP back to his teammates, especially Roth, who has no way to regenerate his BP apart from Ilan killing someone else. And Roth was a trickster as well, who also grants him +1 mobility, in addition to extra initiative, which was pretty nice. He was also from time to time summoning a decoy, and the harmless skill was nice to have on him, even though he stayed on the back lines. So this being said, Endos, here are his skills. And we are now left with Alyssa, who pretty much have the same skills apart from the Withering, which was the only skill I took in the Witch skill tree. She has Ancient Weapons, so she was the one buffing everyone else in terms of weapon, while Endos was doing some damage. She also obviously has a few of our personal Merchant Daughter skill tree. Skills from the skill tree, sorry. She has lower intelligence because she has fewer traits regarding intelligence. Attributes growth is below the ones from Endors, who also has a better starting growth because he's a witch instead of a high mage. But Alyssa had better endurance and slightly lower SP, so she was the Arcane Annihilator or the Arcane Ravager on tier 1. I did the video on which I give titles to everyone, as some extended explanation why I gave those titles precisely to those adventurers, so please check that video. It's in the title, the fact that I talk about title in that episode, so I won't repeat that in that video. Please see the previous one if you want to check that. And then Lisbeth, our saint. I was not 100% sure I would play with a saint in that campaign due to the -90 heal potency I suffer from the difficulty setting, but ultimately I'm glad I had Lisbeth. She didn't do much healing because I didn't want to take damage when I was fighting. I tried to kill everyone before they could take a swing. Still, she had to do a bit of healing here and there when things went south, but she was able to summon the basilisk every now and then, every fight, if she had nothing else to do. She was able to buff everyone defensively or offensively, especially offensively in the All Fortresses map by casting Holy Weapon on Raymond. And yep, that was endgame gear. These are statistics. These are traits. I took Kind because I wanted to get some better healing effects with her, but that did not prove very useful. So here we are. Statistics, almost 100 MAB. Resistances, empowerment, penetration, attribute growth. Equipment, and here are skills. Alright. Now, in terms of statistics of everyone, Roth only did 7k damage and killed 80 people. He's the witch killer, which was quite unexpected, probably due to a chain attack. Ilan did 220,000 damage, but he started close to zero he was still at close to zero by mid campaign. The reason for that is that at that difficulty setting you cannot afford to have someone going melee versus the enemies, because like 90% of them can one-shot you at that stage. So Ilan had very low mobility until everyone reached level 15 for Roth to get the teamwork training. He did not have the quick trait either, so he was stuck with 3 or 4 mobility, which is not much. He didn't have the reaching techniques that allows him to have +1 range for his melee attacks until level 12, so he was very lagging behind. And ultimately, I'm not 100% sure I would still play with one melee adventurer in a future playthrough. Ilan, being a Dragon Knight, was blast in the end game. He was able to do a lot of damage, less than Ilan than Riemann and Ondors that could snipe people from afar, and who did a lot of damage in the early game as well. But strategically, I'm not sure I would play with one melee character in a future playthrough with that difficulty setting. This being said, I'm glad I had him as a Dragon Knight. I had a lot of fun with it, and yep, it could do a lot of things still if he wasn't doing some damage. He could summon the Basilisk from time to time as well. Yeah, he could do a few things and kill the fastest, the closest enemy whenever one was getting close to the rest of the team. So yeah, he did his job very well. And he also was able to buff the team using a few of his skills, notably this one, the Battle Cry, was used a lot on the first turn, which meant that mostly Ilan was doing damage on turn 2 and more, and by that time at least half the map was cleared usually by Endors and Raymond, hence the fact that he did less damage than them. So I'm still glad I had him, definitely. This being said, Ilan, we now have Raymond, the MVP, 700,000 damage, which is insane. This guy has been in our team since day 1. I scouted him on the very first day, and it was an absolute pleasure to have him in the team. He was our trap canceller, so I don't have the correct word here, and he was our chest opener, and he definitely was our MVP in terms of damage done. To be fair, most of the first half of the campaign rotates around everyone buffing him and him doing some damage. So that totally makes sense, but most of his damage comes from other characters buffing him. So this being said, close second is Endors, who on the second half of the campaign probably did as much damage as Raymond, and probably by the end game did more, because Endors was absolutely casting spell over spell over spell every turn, doing a lot of damage, mostly fire actually, from time to time lightning, and very rarely ice and then earth. But yeah, Endors was completely crazy in terms of damage, and he has more value overall because he didn't get that much buffed by everyone else as opposed to Raymond. He played after Raymond, so Raymond picked the easy targets most of the time, or the best place to cast AoE, even though Endors and him were playing smartly in who is getting what in terms of enemies, because they were usually both playing before the enemy, but Raymond was guaranteed to, which was not the case of Endors. So Endors did a lot of damage, and yep, hence these statistics. Raymond killed more enemies because he did the damage probably earlier in the campaign with more low HP enemies. Well, low HP depends on what difficulty you play, but to me they were still low HP compared to what we had in the endgame. This being said, Alyssa then, she did not do much damage. She was very close to Endors for the first, let's say, third of the game, but then she specialized in support and doing a few damage here and there when Endors could not cope all by himself, or once she had buffed everyone and that the fight was going to turn 2, 3 or 4 from time to time. So less damage, she had less intelligence, so less MAB than Endors, although she was the Arcane Ravager while Endors was the Swift Sorcerer. So Endors was casting everywhere for at -1 AP for every spell, which made him still able to one-shot everyone by the end game due to his crazy high damage output. But Alyssa was doing more big AoE damage here and there when Raymond and Endors were not enough, in addition to buffing everyone. And ultimately Lisbeth, our Saint, who did some reasonably good damage, and that doesn't count for all the summons she did, because she was summoning the Basilisk a lot, and for the last third of the game she was summoning the Angel every first turn, so she did damage by indirectly, in addition to buffing everyone else as well, and to sustain everyone in terms of defensive buff and healing from time to time. So, yep, very nice team, balanced team. The others did not play much. As you can see, Misasa played 5 quests, Daryl 2, Ogden 1, Donovan 1, Veronica, and the others 0. Or maybe 1, but in the first 10 or 20 days of the campaign, just for farming what we could collect. And so this is my analysis of my main team. I'm pretty satisfied with the party composition. I don't know if some of you have any comments on that, and if you consider doing something else. The Bard is a must-have. The Beastmaster is a must-have. The Witch is a must-have. Alyssa is very good. I very liked having 2 spellcasters, 3 if you count Lisbeth as an offensive spellcaster, which she was from time to time, obviously. I was not 100% sure if I needed Saint. I'm pretty happy I had Lisbeth, and I wasn't pretty sure of having a melee guy, but Ilan did a lot of buffing and did quite a lot of damage by the end game as well. So all in all, I'm pretty satisfied with the balance and with the way I manage my team. For the record, the meta I had in most fight was Wrath playing first, applying Empower to everyone and granting some BP along the way due to his Elegant Loot passive skill. So he would play Empower on everyone and then Protected on everyone. And on the second turn he would play Song of Valor to grant BP back to everyone, and the fourth song bringing some SP back to everyone. That was his 2-turn meta for 80 to 90% of the fights. And then Raymond was using Shadow Step to TP forward and then playing Arrow Rain while still benefiting from the steady aim bonuses, because teleporting does not count as a movement in terms of reducing range by 1 and not getting the plus 30% physical attack bonus. Depending on how much damage it would do on the 3x3 area, it would activate Light Arrow or not. If there was too much overkill damage, he would activate it, otherwise he would not most of the time. Then he would cast a few extra arrows while using Beyond Limit, and he was also along the way getting some BP back with Sadist and or via killing mobs also from time to time by via one shot. He would put the trap whenever needed. He would then summon the bear and usually wall back into a safe position and a nice turreting position for turn 2. Yeah, as you can understand, because he was my main turret, I don't know how to pronounce that very well, because I didn't want him to move any further and I wanted him to do a lot of damage. So he was buffed a lot, doing a lot of damage, sniping behind the lines, in the back lines, enemies, sometimes using take aim to increase his crit chance, benefiting from high ground whenever possible to do some extra damage, benefiting from steady aim as well for extra damage and extra range, and yep, then doing damage whenever possible and getting his SP back with Wrath. Then I would usually cast Battle Cry Review to further enhance everyone with Empower 3. And I would have you move forward, sometimes TP with that Flaming Entrance from that armor, and then doing some crazy damage with Cleave, spinning through, or slicing through, and usually get invisible with a Scoundrel Mask, and then repeat on turn 2 with you maximum damage to get some BP back for everyone due to your champion title. Then Endos would move forward, do a lot of damage with AoE, mostly Inferno, the 3x3 legendary spell of fire, and yeah, casting firewalls here and there, because they have the most damage output in terms of burning everyone else, except on a few occasions when I would obviously play Ice or Lightning spell whenever relevant. Alyssa was buffing everyone on turn 1 with Ancient Weapon, usually Fire and Ice or Fire and Lightning. On the first turn, using some Beyond Limit Brave actions, and she would get her BP and SP back with Wrath songs on next turn, and she would then kill whoever's left if necessary, with Elemental Fury from time to time as well, actually. And finally, Lisbeth, as I told you, she was summoning the Angel by the end game, but she was summoning the Basilisk on the first few days of the campaign. And she was mostly relying on Holy Light spell to do some damage, because it's a cheap, very reliable spell, doing some holy damage, and very few enemies have a good resistance to holy damage. Plus, this was doing applying vulnerable on enemies, so further increasing damage that would take later on. She would also use Bless Weapon a lot and Radiant Bless whenever relevant. And obviously she would also cast... where is it? The Firestorm spell, where is it? Well, I can't find it, but the 3x3 offensive spell here it is, cleansing firestorm, sorry, which is a nice one. And whenever he did, but that did not happen a lot. Whenever necessary, she would use a personal offensive potion just to get a temporary boost of 40% for a magical attack. And she would also from time to time use a personal mana potion to recover mana during a quest, usually halfway through the quest. But she didn't need that much during that playthrough, so she mostly benefited from the passive increase from these titles. I would have expected her to use her personal potions more often, but that was not necessary, or very rarely was necessary during this campaign. Alright, well, regarding proposals, I researched everything that was necessary for me. I left behind everything that could be researched immediately should I needed it, but that did not happen, so I did not spend the money on it. Training course, I thought I would need it, I did not. Ultimately, I did not train my B team further than what they could get to with some assignments. I did not research this. I was researching Convention Booth because I could, and it takes a few days, so although there was no need, I still researched it. I didn't get training course, I didn't get expanded teamwork because my A team only has 3 teamworks, which are coordinated attacks to increase chain attacks odds, as you already know, move together, and obviously groupies because my leader is apart, to double the song's effects. Yep, that's more or less it. Ultimately, I do think that even with Permadeath and Ironman and this difficulty, completely crazy difficulty settings, my Doomclock settings at 15 and 15 were really hard to overcome. But as you can see, you can further increase that difficulty, or actually decrease the value of the Doomclock. And I ended the campaign with 0.5, which gives plus 22 level to every enemy, which is absolutely insane. I don't know if that would have been possible to play with that Doomclock settings for the whole campaign. I don't think I would have been able to catch up with the difficulty curve. The difficulty curve made it very hard at the beginning of the game, but the bottleneck is a Village in Need quest, after which you can get to medium maps and get some rare gear. And once you can go every day on a medium map, you can gather 125% more materials than on a small map, because you go from a 3x3 map to a 5x5 map, so you can collect more things, with a ratio of 25 to 9 ratio, and that allows you to have more events. Not the same ratio for events, but let's say 1.5 times more event, more enemies, and obviously more craftable items, more gold, and more chests and everything. And once you can fight, more fights and more rewards, obviously. But would that stage been accessible with the following Doomclock settings? I'm not sure. I haven't tried, so I'm not sure. But there were a few mistakes I made in the early game as well, so I don't know. Yep. What else can I say in terms of assets? You can do the math on your own end if you want to, but I did it quickly, and I think I mostly have, as I mentioned, I think already maybe, total of 500k of money sitting in the bank, 250 here cash available. I spend a lot of money on my A-team on bonuses, roughly 40k. I did the math, but sorry, roughly 100k across this whole playthrough, but that comes with not having a B-team to replace them due to the Doomclock. I spend probably around 40k in the temple as well for healing, 40k in terms of wages, which is not that much because I don't have a good B team probably, and yeah, probably around 20k in terms of crafting and purchasing a few equipment at Mikan's shop. Alright, well, I think I already did a longer video than what I expected to do. It has been a pure pleasure to do this playthrough. I hope you enjoyed it as watching it as much as I enjoyed playing it, and even more. Thank you, Green Guy, for that gem of a game. That's a really worthy indie game, in my humble opinion. So I enjoyed that 100 plus hours of campaign. I think I did everything. I will complete in the description of the video or in the comments if I have something to add. If you have some question, please do not hesitate to let me know in the comments, even though I may not be very active on YouTube anymore after that campaign. And well, as always, take care of yourself, guys, and I won't say see you soon for the next video because that might not be soon, or that might not be soon at all, but still take care of yourself, and yep, see you soon, maybe sometime. Cheers, guys, bye.